Returning to Source, Class 3, Father Wounding. Hello, I'm Jim Morningstar, your guide through this 9-class journey of returning to Source. In today's class, we will look at the third level of existence in the spiral dynamics model, egocentric or heroic existence, and find some of the conditioned responses to Father and all our relationships which may no longer be serving us, as well as what to do about them. Our ancestors' adaptation to their environments have shaped our cellular propensities for survival and growth. Many of our habitual ways of interacting in our families and communities have their roots in the levels of existence of our forebears. Answers from evolving human consciousness. The third subsistence level, egocentric existence. In the egocentric level of consciousness, humans become aware of their existence as individuals pitted against the forces of the world and faced with the threat of death as they break away from the previously prescribed tribal level of existence. This is an express self system as opposed to the former adapt self system of the tribe. It takes much strength to break free, and for the individual at this level, might makes right. And existence depends on a controlled relationship between those who have the ability to seize and retain power and those who are forced to submit. This is referred to historically as the Attila the Hun level, and developmentally as the terrible twos, when the child starts asserting individuality and saying no to break free from parental tribal rules. Concomitant with the awareness of self and survival based on the satisfaction of individual needs is the emergence of the operations of the subcortical forebrain, including the thalamus, hypothalamus, and limbic system. Now, this network begins to mature during the second month of life, and it provides 1. More refined sensory discrimination and motor coordination. That is, a better ability to choose and go after what you want. 2. Specific motivational and or emotional orientations supporting ongoing behavioral sequences. In other words, drive states and coordinated steps to fulfilling them. And 3, mechanisms for the control of attention. That is, I'm not so easily distracted from getting what I want. Characteristic of behavior at this level is that it seems to arise from internal sources, that is, drive states, and be directed towards stimulus patterns associated with consummatory activity, for example, sex and eating. Humans learn at this level from those bodily movements they produce that bring satisfaction of a specific drive state. That is rewarding, which provides them with their survival needs of food, water, sexual satisfaction, and the secondary rewards closely associated with these. For example, status gain from being strong, clever, etc., at getting your needs met. In this trial and error or instrumental learning scheme, reward is dependent on the organism's active behavior. The degree to which learning takes place is a function of the amount of activity spent getting the reward, the length of time between the desired consummatory activity and the presentation of the reward, and the strength of the need states. Immediate gratification is of high value here. I want what I want, and I want it now. Deep and persistent behavior patterns are associated with the satiation of these major drive states. It's during this critical period when the objects of emotional significance are determined, that is, people and things that attract me. Although myriad social and moral behaviors mediated by higher cognitive patterns surround the satisfaction of these needs for adults, associations on the operant level often run counter to and are more compelling than the logical or moral convictions. I want what I want, but part of me says I shouldn't. Conflict at this level can paralyze any part of the organism as in hysterical conversion reaction, immobilized functioning in a particular setting, as in phobias, or precipitate stereotyped compulsive behavior that only partially satisfies some basic need, but is kept from completion by an equally strong repression. For example, washing my hands incessantly, but being unaware of what really makes me think I'm dirty. Therapy with conflict problems at this level comes under the broad rubric of behavior modification. An example is Skinner's technique of shaping, which involves rewarding closer and closer approximations to any desired behavior. For example, rewarding a child for each step progressively learning to tie a shoe. Applied in reverse to eliminate an undesirable behavior, for example, a phobic response to snakes, the individual is rewarded for a favored response, that is, relaxation, in closer and closer approximations to the stimulus situation, that is, seeing a snake. So the desensitization process might start with seeing a rope, then holding a rope, then holding a rope that looks like a snake, then seeing a cartoon snake that looks like a rope, seeing a real snake, all the way perhaps to holding a snake, progressing only after having learned to relax at each step along the way. This extinguishes the behavior to be eliminated. For example, staying inside the house for fear of encountering a snake. Another technique for eliminating an undesired behavior is to associate an aversive response to the stimulus situation. This stimulus situation brings gratification but unwanted behavior. For example, using a medication that causes nausea when alcohol is consumed. People dealing with this level of existence, such as Native Africans, have used these techniques for centuries. In our culture, a cure for enuresis in the male child, that is bedwetting, can be accomplished through using a bed pad with an electric grid in it attached to an alarm that rings loudly, which is an aversive stimulus, when the child urinates, the undesired behavior. The child is rudely awakened at each wetting and often eliminates this behavior. The Africans accomplished this by tying the anuretic's penis to a frog that croaks loudly, aversive stimulus, when the child urinates during the night, also often bringing an end to the anuretic problem. The therapeutic process for conflict at this level requires a setting controlled to the extent that an appropriate drive state can be elicited and direct reward through as many sense modalities as possible, and immediate reward, 1 to 3 seconds after the behavior is emitted, can be consistently administered. Now, when a complex behavior such as speech is being taught, the operant process must begin at the level on which the individual can respond and increase in increments no larger than can be integrated. This is a standard behavior modification procedure. Operant conditioning requires the person to do something in order to get the reward or avoid punishment. That's the father principle. You have to do A to get B. Life has cause and effect conditions. Conditional reward. Versus the mother principle, just being in the proximity to a stimulus, such as mother, is associated with the results, unconditional love. That's the classical conditioning we looked at last class. In a therapeutic breathwork session, the client is first coached to associate a connected breathing rhythm with safety, the safe, supportive environment, the facilitator. That's classical conditioning as we saw it in last class. But as the work continues, the client then learns to self-initiate the connected breathing rhythm and relaxation on the exhale through whatever sensations, emotions, or thoughts arise during the activated state to achieve inner peace. That's the operant conditioning model. Their internal drive state towards satisfaction, that is the release of tension, pleasurable flow of energy, heightened awareness, and sense of joy, is paired with the self-initiated, regulated breathing. In therapeutic breathwork, clients are instructed to connect their inhale to their exhale without pause in a slightly faster rhythm than in a resting state. This initiates an activated sympathetic nervous system. They are further instructed to balance or self-regulate this rhythm to sustain it, to release and achieve the resultant homeostasis. What it takes to do this is different for every individual. Everyone learns by their own trial and error and what leads to release and pleasure for them. They are also directed to assume responsibility for their healing from the start. This increases confidence and self-esteem as self-soothing is mastered in more and more situations. Now, in a famous experiment in operant conditioning, chickens in a cage randomly discovered that pressing a bar releases a pellet of food to drop down for them to eat. In a very short period of time, when the chicken discovers that pressing the bar gets them food, they become expert and incessant bar pressers. Their drive state, hunger, has been paired with bar pressing behavior. Now, in further experiments, many chickens in individual cages are delivered a pellet of food at random times, not because they pressed a bar. If the bird happens to be pecking at the time of the food delivery and associates its action with getting food, the chicken will continue pecking until another pellet is delivered, thereby reinforcing the pecking with the food association. If a chicken is preening at the time of food delivery, it will continue to preen until more food is delivered, and so on, with whatever behavior the chicken associates with the random delivery of food. Now, within a week, you'll have a whole series of birds continuously pecking or preening or flapping their wings or scratching, having associated their behaviors with producing their sustenance. These, quotes, superstitious birds are products of their nervous system's operant conditioning wiring, which is our primitive cause and effect mechanism for staying alive. In many cases, these associations are highly valuable in promoting survival in various environments. That is, do the work and get the payoff. Don't do the work and don't get the payoff. The father principle. We humans have this basic wiring within our nervous system at a deep level. We also have higher order reasoning abilities which can override the programming at this level if and when we recognize, for example, that we're in a cage, that is a controlled environment, with rewards being administered by outside forces. So let's look at how our lives are set up to benefit from our operant behaviors and where our conditioned responses may not be benefiting us most efficiently. That is, where we may be flapping our wings unnecessarily. Take handout 1, Father Wounding and Forgiveness. And in section 1A, write 3 early conditioned behaviors you learned from your father, or father substitute if you had little or no contact with your birth father, that you believe serve you well. And in section B, 3 behaviors that you consider negative. Now, whether you were conscious of them as positive or negative at the time or not. This learning can be by direct instruction, or may just be by observation of your father, or even epigenetically with no direct contact. An operant behavior is one that may seem instinctual to you. There's not a lot of choice about it. That's just the way it is, as with our classically conditioned responses. Of course, later we make up all sorts of reasons for choosing this or that behavior. No, I seem to get a thrill out of procrastinating till the last moment and then scrambling furtively to complete a job and get the payoff. But when it comes right down to it, it seems very difficult to unchoose the behavior. Now, understand, this is not about blaming your father for anything. It's just about behaviors that you took on in relation to him or ideas about him. Operant conditioning is training our nervous system to initiate behaviors which promote our well-being and satiation of our drive states and or avoid our harm. You may have learned a behavior that was appropriate or even life-saving at one stage in your existence, but may have continued beyond its usefulness for promoting your well-being now. For example, distrusting all male authority figures. Do not try at this point to analyze all your behaviors learned from your father. Just note them. Complete these 2 sections now and come back to the video. Each month, we will do an experiential exercise that highlights the level of conscious evolution we are examining within us. This month is the egocentric or heroic level of existence. It's called the heroic because the idealized version of this level is of the protagonist who is the rugged individualist, breaking through convention to save the day with strength and conviction of their own rightness. It's important that we use these exercises to bring consciousness to what may be impeding our full potential for the purpose of recovering the frozen energies from past experiences that may have been overwhelming or traumatic to our nervous system, and therefore stored in what's called the implicit-only memory, and preventing us from becoming the hero of our own journey. Exercise 1. We will work now with the example of your heightened drive state and operant behaviors associated with your father or father substitute you described in Handout 1, Sections 1A and B. We're going to take you through a self-guided breathwork visualization from the 6 early life behaviors you noted with your father. However, be open to whatever surfaces as you breathe. It could be just sensations, emotions, thoughts, or other memories than the ones you wrote down. Suggest that whatever comes up is there for the benefit of your intended release or reinforcement. This includes having nothing seemingly happen, which is also a cue that part of you is not ready to go there. It's only by accepting that part that it may eventually relax because it knows that it's not being forced into what it doesn't want to experience. Building self-acceptance and inner trust is more to the point here than trying to force something to happen. Now, get yourself in a relaxed sitting or laying position in which you are warm and comfortably supported and are close enough to turn off the video once you hear all the instructions, and then allow yourself to continue the breath exercise till you're complete. So if you need, stop the video now to get situated and then come back. Now first, have the loving intention to go back to those experiences you wrote about on Handout 1, Sections A and B, for the purpose of recovering whatever energy may still be awaiting your reintegration. Our purpose is restoring full aliveness and health to your body, mind, and spirit. We will use the form of faster than normal breathing through the mouth and releasing it on the exhale to initiate a somewhat heightened energy state, and then do some active movements in order to reprogram behaviors we choose and ones we reject. You'll put your attention on your diaphragm and heart area, and breathing through your mouth, take an active inhale, bring the energy up from your diaphragm to your heart, then without pause, exhale from your heart to your diaphragm, not pushing or forcing it, and relaxing on the exhale. It's like throwing a ball into the air and letting it fall back down. Keep the inhale and exhale connected without pause, like you were tossing this ball from your diaphragm or your belly, if you have a hard time locating your diaphragm, to your heart, and letting it fall back down in a continuous rhythm, but adjusted to the pace and volume to what allows you to be energized without overwhelming your system. Superventilated, not hyperventilated. It'll look something like this. We will do a few minutes of this faster breathing and then do some visualization work. Let's begin. Now, Keep the pace going and let yourself adjust to a faster than normal rhythm that you can keep and easily sustain while I explain the exercise to you. If you need to switch to breathing through your nose, do this and experiment with that. Now, continue your cycle of faster than normal breathing, and while you're doing it, bring your attention again to your heart area and invite in the spirit of your Father, whether he's alive or dead, to be with you in clearing any energies between you that may be impeding your soul contract on the highest level to foster one another's evolution. See if you can make this invitation to his spirit, even if part of you is wary or skeptical. Know that you have the protection of all your guiding spirits throughout this work. Let the memories and feelings of connection to your Father come to you now in whatever order they choose, and keep your breath moving regardless if you regard them as positive or negative. As much as you can, put all judgments at bay and let the spirit of breath do the healing work you intend. Keep this going now and focus on the behaviors and qualities associated with your Father that you want out of your psyche and life. And imagine that they are encapsulated in a ball of dark-colored energy about a foot outside your heart. Now put your hands on that ball with your elbows bent, and with a strong thrusting motion, in a moment you'll push it away while saying the words, "Get out," seeing and feeling it flying away. We'll do this together 3 times now. Get out! Get out! Get out! Now breathe and feel the strength in your arms, your body, and your voice, saying to yourself, I have the confidence and competence to know what serves me and command my resources accordingly. All right, now just let yourself start to breathe easy. Breathing easy. All right. Staying with your easy breath, envision and feel the behaviors and qualities associated with your Father, or you wish were associated with your Father, that you value and want to embrace and increase in your body and life. Now let your arms reach out in front of you and imagine a ball of light energy encapsulating these behaviors and qualities, again, about a foot outside of your heart. And in a moment, let yourself embrace this ball of light energy and bring it lovingly into your heart, saying the words, I accept you and take you in. Again, we'll do this together 3 times, each time owning these behaviors and qualities more and more as your own. I accept you and take you in. I accept you and take you in. I accept you and take you in. Let yourself continue to breathe easy and integrate whatever is useful for you until you feel complete for now. If you want, you can turn off the video and come back when you're ready. Now suggest to yourself that whatever happened in this exercise is what you were ready for at this time, and that more realizations about your conditioned behaviors in relation to your Father and your life will come to you as you're ready for them in the time between now and next class. As we become aware of our conditioned behaviors, we can get closer to having more choice, or at least more compassion around them until we have more choice. Sharing with a supportive partner can be very helpful, and the homework breathing we'll do till next class will also be useful in this regard. For now, take handout 1, and in section 2, write what you discovered that was useful for you about your relationship to your father in the faster than normal breathing and movement exercise we did. Turn off the video and come back when complete. Forgiveness. Forgiveness is just as important with the father as it was with mother, as we worked with in the last class. To briefly summarize the 5 steps of forgiveness. 1, you forgive yourself. That is, A, you let go of allegiance to beliefs in essential permanent damage to yourself or another. And B, you're willing to learn from whatever happened that's of genuine benefit to you. 2, you forgive the other. Release the other from blame. 3, get that the other forgives you. See the higher level at which the other also forgives and releases you, even if their personality may still be holding on. 4, give up all claim to punishment for the other or yourself. And 5, restore harmony to the relationship as before the event. With these steps in mind, now take handout 1, and in a few minutes you will write in section 3 how I forgive myself and my father and our relationship is, and then write in 3b how I'm now willing to use my relationship with my father to own the divine masculine within me is. Again, don't let your mind play tricks with you and rise above it all saying, oh, there's nothing really to forgive. Of course, we know that intellectually. We're working with what our emotions and our body feelings still are reacting to. My father was my hero as a child. He could easily do tasks that were impossible for me, and he delighted in teaching me to eventually do them for myself. Then, when I became a teenager, as in Wilfred's story, I began to rebel and reject his values to the point, as a young adult, I told him I had to unlearn everything he taught me, which was very hurtful to him. As I grew to put my egocentric level in perspective, we were able to reestablish bonds. Even though he rejected my values at one point by saying that a book I wrote was worth about a paragraph of words, which hurt me. To his credit, he heard my feelings, and we came to a more mutual respect. But one evening, I was informed he was taken to the hospital having suffered a heart attack at work. After a triple bypass surgery, he was in a coma for 3 days. In visiting him in his hospital bed, unconsciously curled in a fetal position, I was called to go over and whisper in his ear an invitation to breathe and come back to consciousness. Very soon after I did this, the alarms went off, and the hospital staff rushed in to resuscitate him as he was struggling with keeping his heart going and returning to his body. He came out of his coma, but had no conscious recollection of my talking with him while he was in the coma. I just yesterday learned that certain medical cases have shown that a comatose patient's brain activity was, quotes, robust when a family member spoke to them, though they had no conscious memory of it upon awakening. I did, however, tell him about the benefits of connected breathing when he woke up, and to my utter amazement, he agreed to do a breathwork session 1 week after being released from the hospital. Now, as he lay on my breathwork mat and got breathing instructions from me, he initiated a rhythm. And after a short time, his body began to go through the symptoms of a heart attack, but without the pain involved. My faith in the process was put to the ultimate test, so I had to make a decision whether to call an ambulance or to continue the breathing session, even though newspaper headlines flitted through my mind, "Breathworker kills father." He successfully processed his heart attack in the session and lived another 28 years, saying that every day he considered a gift. His more relaxed approach to life allowed him to remarry after my mother died and traveled to places in the world he'd always wanted to, and to continue to write his poetry, which I published in a book and gifted to him. I came to see him as a human who originally helped me connect with Divine Father, and value my masculine energy as a husband, father, and grandfather. Now, you may not know how you can use your relationship with your father to own your divine masculine right off. Just write down what comes to you intuitively, and more will open to your awareness in our future work. So go ahead now and complete Handout 1, Section 3A and 3B, then come back to the video. The result is freedom from any illusion of father or mother wounding, and returning to the sanctuary of your holy inner family. Holding you in my heart as fellow travelers on the road home, I send and receive blessings for our circle and all sentient beings till next class. Blessings in light and love.